Why do these normal things feel so difficult? What if the things you hate doing most are revealing something unusual about your brain? A simple phone call feels strangely stressful. Small talk drains you faster than it should. Someone stands behind you while you work, and suddenly your brain seems to forget how to function. Background noise that everyone else ignores completely destroys your concentration. And the moment someone tells you exactly what to do, something inside you immediately wants to resist, even when you know they're right. Experience this often enough, and you may start believing you're the problem. Too sensitive, too difficult, too antisocial, maybe even lazy. But psychology suggests there may be another explanation. The situations that frustrate you most can reveal surprising patterns in how your mind handles attention, stimulation, social interaction, and control, because not every brain processes the same environment in the same way. And if you hate the 6 things we're about to explore, you may finally understand why certain normal situations have never felt normal to you. Your brain may be filtering the world differently. Here is what most people never realize. Your brain is constantly deciding what deserves your attention and what should be ignored. Every sound, conversation, movement, and social signal competes for limited mental energy. For some people, the brain filters these inputs efficiently, allowing background noise and unnecessary information to fade away. But other minds seem to process far more of what is happening around them. They notice subtle changes in tone, become distracted by sounds others barely hear, and feel overwhelmed when too many things demand attention at once. This does not automatically mean something is wrong. It may simply mean your mind responds differently to stimulation, autonomy, and social interaction. Think of 2 radios tuned to different frequencies. Neither one is broken. They are simply receiving different signals more clearly. And once you understand this, the things you have always called weaknesses may start looking different. Because sometimes, what feels like difficulty is actually your brain revealing what it needs to function at its best. Sign 1. You hate small talk. If small talk feels strangely exhausting to you, it may not be because you dislike people. You can spend hours talking with someone about their fears, dreams, relationships, or the questions that keep them awake at night. But ask you to spend 10 minutes discussing the weather, weekend plans, or meaningless office gossip, and your attention starts disappearing almost immediately. The difference is depth. Some minds naturally crave conversations that contain meaning, emotional connection, or something genuinely interesting to explore. When an interaction stays on the surface, your brain may struggle to find enough value to justify the energy it requires. That is why you might seem quiet around strangers, but become completely different when the conversation suddenly becomes meaningful. You are not necessarily antisocial. In fact, you may deeply enjoy connection. You simply prefer conversations where people stop performing and start revealing something real. So what looks like social awkwardness from the outside may actually be a strong preference for depth over empty interaction. Sign 2. You hate being watched while you work. You can perform a task perfectly when you're alone, but the moment someone stands behind you and watches, everything changes. Suddenly, movements that normally feel automatic become awkward. You start thinking about every click, every word, every decision. Even simple mistakes feel embarrassing. This happens because part of your attention is no longer focused on the task itself. Your brain is also monitoring the person watching you, wondering what they are thinking and whether you are being judged. Psychology calls this evaluation apprehension. And for tasks requiring concentration, that extra mental pressure can interfere with performance. It does not necessarily mean you lack confidence or competence. In fact, you may perform exceptionally well when given enough space to focus without observation. The problem is that being watched forces your attention to split between doing the work and monitoring yourself. So if someone looking over your shoulder suddenly makes you forget what you were doing, your brain may simply work best when attention remains completely uninterrupted. Sign 3. You hate background noise. If background noise makes it almost impossible for you to think, You probably know how frustrating this can be. Someone nearby is tapping a pen. A television is playing in another room. Two coworkers are having a quiet conversation. Everyone else seems able to ignore it, but your attention keeps getting pulled toward every sound. This may have less to do with being easily distracted and more to do with how strongly your brain filters sensory information. Some minds appear to let more environmental input reach conscious awareness instead of automatically pushing it into the background. That can make noisy environments exhausting, but it may also explain why you notice details, changes, and connections that other people overlook. The same sensitivity that interrupts your concentration can sometimes help you detect information others miss. The challenge is that your brain cannot always choose when to notice more. So while everyone else hears background noise, your mind may experience it as something demanding immediate attention. Sign 4. You hate being told what to do. Nothing makes you lose motivation faster than hearing someone say, "You need to do this," even when you were already planning to do exactly that. Being ordered can suddenly make you want to resist. This reaction may seem childish, but psychology has a name for it: psychological reactance. When people feel that their freedom to choose is being restricted, the brain can automatically push back in an attempt to restore control. For some people, this response is especially strong. You may work incredibly hard when a decision feels like your own, yet struggle with the same task when someone else controls how or when you do it. But there is a danger here. Protecting your independence can become self-sabotage if you reject useful advice simply because someone told you what to do. The goal is not to eliminate your need for autonomy. It is learning to pause and ask, am I resisting because this is wrong, or because I hate being controlled? Sign 5. You hate mindless, repetitive tasks. Some tasks feel boring to everyone, but for you, repetitive work can feel almost physically uncomfortable. Copying data, filling out endless forms, attending meetings with no clear purpose, or repeating the same simple process for hours can make your mind desperately search for an escape. This does not always mean you lack discipline. Some people have a stronger need for cognitive stimulation. Their minds naturally want problems to solve, ideas to explore, and challenges that require real thought. When a task offers none of these things, attention begins wandering toward anything more interesting. You might suddenly start daydreaming, checking your phone, or thinking about completely unrelated ideas. The strange part is that you may focus intensely for hours on something genuinely challenging while struggling to tolerate 10 minutes of meaningless repetition. Your brain is not necessarily avoiding effort. It may be avoiding understimulation. The challenge is learning to complete necessary boring tasks without mistaking your need for mental engagement for laziness. Sign 6. You hate phone calls. A phone call can feel strangely stressful, even when you have no problem texting the same person or talking to them face to face. The moment your phone rings unexpectedly, your mind starts preparing for uncertainty. Who is calling? What do they want? How long will this take? Unlike texting, phone calls demand an immediate response. You cannot pause for several minutes to organize your thoughts, rewrite your words, or decide exactly how you want to respond. And unlike face-to-face conversations, you lose many visual signals that help you understand what someone really means. Facial expressions, body language, and subtle gestures disappear, leaving your brain to interpret everything through voice alone. For people who naturally process communication carefully, this can make phone calls surprisingly draining. It does not necessarily mean you are socially anxious or afraid of people. Your mind may simply prefer communication that gives you either more information or more time to process before responding. The pattern behind all 6 signs. Now step back and look at what these 6 things have in common. Small talk lacks depth. Being watched divides your attention. Background noise floods your awareness. Commands threaten your sense of autonomy. Repetitive tasks starve your mind of stimulation. Phone calls remove control and useful visual information. On the surface, these frustrations seem completely unrelated. but underneath, they may point toward the same pattern. Your mind functions best when it has meaning, focus, autonomy, and enough space to process information deeply. That does not make you superior to people who enjoy different environments. And it does not mean every uncomfortable reaction should be treated as a hidden strength. It simply means your difficulties may contain useful information about how you operate. Instead of immediately asking, "What is wrong with me?" try asking, "What is this reaction telling me?" Because understanding the conditions under which your mind works best can help you stop fighting yourself and start designing your life more intelligently. Final reflection: maybe you were never the problem. If there is one thing to remember after watching this video, it is this: feeling different does not automatically mean something is wrong with you. The situations that exhaust, frustrate, or overwhelm you may be revealing something important about the conditions your mind needs to function well. Maybe you need deeper conversations instead of constant small talk, quiet instead of endless stimulation, freedom instead of unnecessary control, challenge instead of meaningless repetition. None of this means you should avoid every uncomfortable situation or expect the world to adapt to you. Self-awareness is not an excuse. It is information. Once you understand your patterns, you can build environments, habits, and relationships that work with your mind instead of constantly fighting against it. So stop measuring yourself entirely by what feels normal to everyone else. Pay attention to what helps you think clearly and feel engaged. If you recognized yourself in these 6 signs, comment the number that described you most. You might discover you're not alone.